we've been hosting events for 9 years. For those not familiar with Startup Grind, there's a lot of swearing coming from me. I hope you're comfortable with that. If not, it's okay. You'll get used to it. But we've been doing this. What we do in Startup Grind, which is the biggest, largest global entrepreneurship network in the world, what we do is we host events in every city of the world, right? We host events in Moldova, we host events in Poland, we host events in Australia, in China, in virtually every country in the world. We have got more than 700 chapters in more than 100 plus countries. I don't know how many countries are there in the world. If you know the answer to this, let me know. Because I didn't know there were so many countries in the world. So we're doing this, a monthly event, where we host and we interview people who are relevant to the ecosystem. Sometimes it's investors, sometimes it's founders, sometimes it's VCs, sometimes it's, sometimes it's celebrities. We've had a few people who are in the audience tonight who have been a speaker. We've got Mike Puig down there. He's the director of La Masia of FC Barcelona. We've got Laura from the Hotels Network, one of the founders, and they're here in the audience. And I've got a few stories for you. I'm going to tell you where we come from. For all, this event proudly presented by Marsbase, my company. I don't like talking about my company. I'm very shy, so let's forget about this slide. But I'm going to be talking about Enel, right? Enel, and this is the innovation hub that they've got here, this beautiful, beautiful scenery, this beautiful venue. This is the second time we host an event here. They treat us very, very well. They're super welcoming, super well organized, and it's always smiles. When we talk to them, it's always like, yes, everything, whatever you want, you can have it. Always willing to help in the true Startup Grind fashion. So please give up the very first applause of the night for Enel. Awesome. So it's been 9 years. We've been doing lots of events. You'll see lots of pictures from events. We've hosted events in Tallinn Garden, in Mobile World Center. We hosted events in CaixaBank, in startups, in Ironhack, and many, many, many places. We've done this. But the first event was really terrible. Like, that's why I'm asking. Remember, this is our first event. We had 70 people. It was solid attendance, but you can see the projector in my face. The elevator didn't work. Like, some things broke down. Like, the AC didn't work. It was a complete mess. But it started in a garage, pretty much like every startup. And if you were sitting, it was so bad that if you were sitting in the second row, you couldn't see other people's heads. It was so bad. There was no stage. So in the front were two people there talking. You couldn't see them, right? It was really bad. But we did one thing very, very well. Every event, we improved something. And this gradual improvement took us to where we are today, right? In spite of the really terrible event, we had the best people, so they gave us a terrific applause. It was so good they came to the next event. So it was they believed in us. They are the first investors of Startup Grind Barcelona. One of them became my employee. That one over there with the funny hair. No jokes about funny hair, please. And then after that, we kept evolving. And then all of a sudden, we changed the venue. Look at this venue. It's one of the coolest venues in town. Not as cool as this one. It's okay. This one is the Movistar Center in Plaza Catalunya, right? We did events in bars. Our first summer party with Karen Prats from Pop Places. We did an event with Mike, who's over there. Hello, Mike. How are you doing? Third event. It looks professional. I was nervous as fuck. Interviewing somebody who works now at FC Barcelona. All right, I was very nervous. The first event in the big venue, we had already like 100 people in the room, right? We kept growing. An event with Anna, who's going to be speaking tonight, right? We had 100 plus. Victor from our team is sleeping over there. I don't know if you can see him. It's okay, Victor. We all have slept in one event or another. I have slept too. And then with the first anniversary in April 2015, we had 150 people with Miguel Vicente. We called the Startup Grind CEO, Derek, who's having the time of his life on Zoom, back before Zoom was cool. We've had fun, to be honest. We did fitness. We did the fitness class with Pablo Villalba. Actually, this might be a little bit sketchy. Not Nazis, okay? We're just squatting. Don't take us wrong. We did the session of fitness in the networking. That's great. We played Lego. I don't know how you pronounce that, in one of our first events. for a fundraiser for kids with terminal diseases. And we did this creativity event in which you had to create, you were given like 5 blocks of Lego, create a duck. Mine was terrible, as you can expect, but we did it. It was really fun. We've had a lot of fun. But we also had really, really fucking bad events. We had this event where not a lot of people showed up. It was raining. The team couldn't come. The roll-up broke in the middle of the fireside chat. The beers were delivered to another place. Our venue shut down, and we had to change that very day. That day, I almost gave up. Sorry, Brian. I almost said, like, look, I'm not going to do this again. The speaker called in. He was sick. Said, like, I don't know if I can come. I've got a fever. And he showed up, right? Carlos remembers. It was like a terrible event, and I sent an email to the community saying, like, fuck this. I'm tired. I cannot do this anymore. But we kept on pushing, right? We had another event inside of Beast Barcelona. If you've been there, you know it's a conference. I interviewed Philippe from Cantox, and we were given the smallest room at like 7 p.m. Only 2 people showed up. There's no pictures of the audience because there was nobody there. It was me and Philippe speaking to each other. It was terrible. I mean, I wish there were people, there were pictures, but there were not, right? So we had, we had people we shouldn't have invited. It's okay. We all make mistakes. Sorry about that. But we've grown. We're back to our feet, right? After this, we hosted a conference for 800 people for 3 years in a row. Almost 1,000 people. More than 3,000 combining the 3 conferences, right? We had entrepreneurs and university professors from Silicon Valley coming. Michael Eckhart from the book Crossing the Chasm, one of the must reads. We had this many people in the audience. It was amazing to see all of these come to realization. I interviewed, one of the highlights in my career, I interviewed the co-founder of Shazam. Shazam was not cool already in 2018. It was not relevant, but it was full. It was full. I met him, and we've had coffee a few times together, and we almost invest in a couple of companies together. It's great when you can reach this amount of people, make this quality and caliber of friends, right? And when we were in our peak, selling out every event, every month in, month out, 150 people sold out. So we sold out events without announcing the speaker sometimes. That's fucking bananas, right? And then COVID. 1.5 years doing events on Zoom. Very interesting. I was looking at the video. I think I fell asleep in that one. Not because Carlos is boring. He's a terrific speaker. But, it's hard. 1 hour on fucking Zoom. You don't get to see the audience. If I made a joke, and I didn't know how you reacted. I didn't get any feedback. I didn't know whether you're going to fall asleep because this presentation is too long, or people watching the phone. I couldn't see that. It was very boring. We were separated from our community, right? And then we came back. It was even worse. One event limited to like 15 people with mask on, no networking, social distancing, and whatever. Hats off to Attico because they were like super cool. I don't know, Nayara made it to the event already because she also works very hard, not like you people. But they offered the venue back when people were not hosting events, right? Only crazy people like Carlos, who had been doing events throughout the pandemic, and I were hosting the events, right? But we're back. We're back. We had amazing events. This is from April last year, 8th anniversary, with Avi from Travel Perk and an event together with Carlos. We joined Fuck Up Nights and Starbright for a very, very amazing event. It was right after the pandemic restrictions ended. We had a lot of people, a lot of fun. It was Carlos with his funny slides. He's obviously funnier than me on stage, but it was a great event. We had events back in our Movistar Center. We had events in Tallinn Garden. And then we had an event here. And this is where you are. We're here. You're here. I mean, some of you have been in this event in February. It was amazing. Why are we back? Because you are the best. So please give yourself an applause.
Thank you so much for being here. My name is Nazia. I'm from the Startup Grind Barcelona team and have the pleasure of presenting you our first 3 speakers for the first panel, which will be the investor panel. We have, first of all, Mercetel, general partner and co-founder of Neco, a venture capital firm investing in scalable early stage digital transformation companies and with over 15 years of experience in venture capital. Then also welcome Jordi Miró, serial entrepreneur and investor, previously CTO and co-founder of Lerman Games, also previously CTO at Waki TV, which was acquired by Rakuten TV, and now Chief Innovation Officer at the Hotels Network, where he's helping to scale the tech teams and the product. And last but not least, also welcome on stage Victoria Gago, co-founder and co-CEO of the European Blockchain Convention, one of the largest blockchain events in Europe, with the next edition here in Barcelona, with an expected over 5,000 attendees, and also co-founder and co-CEO of European Tech School, an online blockchain and crypto school. Mercè, Jordi, Victoria, thank you so much for being here and welcome. So maybe before we jump into the topic of AI, which is the main topic of tonight, let's start with a round of a bit rather personal questions to get to know you guys a little bit better as investors and what's your philosophy and your approach when it comes to investing. I mean, Mercè, maybe let's start with you. Your VC is specialized on 5 verticals, right? FinTech, InsurTech, Travel Tech, Prop Tech, and Mobility. And would you say there is a sector that you would like to invest in, but you can't because of the fund?
Many of them, but I don't know so much on each vertical, even though 5 is already so much, and I share the knowledge with my partners, so in fact, in my case, it's mainly, I would say, that I've got experience in travel tech and insurtech, and the other ones rely on my partners, otherwise I wouldn't have any criteria, but there's a lot of sectors that we love to invest.
Mm-hmm. Like, could you name some examples?
I would say deep tech, even anything related to biotech, but I wouldn't bring any value at all, except of bringing cash. And my approach is quite hands-on, so it's more than focusing on those ones that I can help or I can open doors and bring value to the company. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, but there's for sure a lot of great entrepreneurs and a lot of great ideas over there that I would love to invest.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Jordi, a little bird told me that you just can't stop investing in founding companies and that every time you say this is going to be the last one and then I'll stop, but then you don't and you just go on. Like what's up with that? Is it an addiction? What's your motivation behind?
Or I simply lie to my wife and family and I keep telling them that this is the last time I either invest money in a company or that I either start or help start the company. I think I don't know another way of doing things. I tried corporate, I don't like corporate. And I was saying before, I could be smarter and invest my money in other assets, which I try to do. But I get no happiness on doing that. Stocks is great, real estate is great, but I want something more. And that something more, I get it by investing in startups. And that's why I keep doing it. And most times I lose all the money I put in them. That's why I'm not that smart. And I should be putting them in other assets. But that's the reality.
Yeah, nice one. Victoria, the same little bird told me that you have experience as a business angel. But you're an entrepreneur at the same time, right? So that's challenging to manage time-wise, being an entrepreneur, at the same time investing. How do you balance that? How do you manage both sides?
Well, first of all, you work 7 days a week. Not recommendable. Yes. Well, basically, I started as a business agent investing in a few startups. But I realized that it takes quite a lot of time to talk to amazing founders out there. You need to dedicate time to it. You need to go through several investment decks, decide who you want to speak to, who you want to meet. And I think this whole process is actually very beautiful. But right now, I don't have that much time. So what I started doing recently is investing directly into funds. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, I think I'm doing something similar because I'm investing in the GPs, I'm investing in the team, the same way when you invest in a startup. But I would say, one of the good things, as we were talking about before, hopefully these investments are a little bit more diversified. hopefully. Even though for the past many years I've investing purely in crypto, which at some point is fucking boring because it's just like the same all the time, and then there's a bull run and like everybody's completely excited, and then there is like a complete crash in the market and everybody's very sad and very dramatic. So yes, I think funds is also an interesting option as an investor.
Nice. By the way, whenever one of you says something interesting and the other one wants to jump in to either oppose an opinion or agree, feel free to jump in whenever you want. All right, thanks so much. Now that we have like a better idea in terms of how you guys are thinking as investors, how you take decisions. When we jump into the topic of AI, maybe let's start with something that's been in the headlines a lot this week, which is the Paris-based AI startup Mistral, which raised a record-breaking 105 million of seed round, the largest seed round Europe has ever seen, and that being 4 weeks old, and even before launching their product. So for you as investors, how do you feel about it? Do you think it's crazy? Would you have done the same? And in general, what kind of criteria, based on what kind of criteria would you invest in an AI startup?
Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't have the money to put those tickets. But I think it's easy, no? You see who those guys are, you see the market, there's a trend, there's a need, and money has to be deployed. So you ask for that money, and if someone believes that you're worth that money, you'll get it. So, but would I invest in it? I don't know enough to say if I would or not, nor I don't have the money to do it. So it's like gossip for me. It's too far away from what I see or what I do. But reality is based on who the team is and the sector.
I can't agree anymore. So they are French guys, hopefully. So we don't have such a seed stage company with such an amazing founders to have this type of valuation, or at least I haven't seen it here. But actually, for me, that I invest in pre-seed and seed, that's basically the clue, knowing the founders. So I don't know these guys personally in French. I guess they are amazing. But that's mainly the main reason. I would invest in AI for sure. And as a fund, we normally follow the trends. Investing in pre-seed and seed, we have to see which is the trend, because our colleagues which invest bigger stakes and bigger ticket sizes are the ones that are going to be substituting us in most of the cases. So we need to know what they are willing to invest in the future so that we have to invest. And for sure, AI is a trend. We're following that but AI applied to the verticals that I know. There's a lot of things that we could be investing, but we have to focus on those ones that we know. We can validate the market, as Jordi was saying. So it's mainly founders and the market what we check, and with that we can argument whenever the valuation is.
Yeah, well, history repeats itself. I mean, right now AI is hyped. It was hyped as well some years back. And I think it's quite interesting to see like a little bit the crypto Twitter space, because they were like, yeah, see guys, now people are investing 105 million and you were criticizing the whole crypto space. So basically, yeah, history repeats itself. And I think hypes, yeah, this is part of innovation, this is part of life. And I think the interesting thing is, of course, when you get a bunch of like talented people and they get a lot of money, they can also attract more people to the space. And with that money, build stuff and test out things. And of course, most of the things are not going to work out, but still, the hype is important. It's important for AI. It's extremely important for the whole blockchain crypto space. So, I mean, again, I also don't have the money to invest in this startup, but this is normal. We'll see this again and again and again.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point that you raise in terms of history repeating itself, and that we've seen something similar with blockchain happening. You personally have done investments in blockchain startups in the past. Where do you see the parallels in terms of the hype? Would you say the hype now with AI is a similar one? Is one of them more justified and the hype in the other one was a bit less justified?
I mean, they're all justified and not justified. I guess, I mean, people get excited. People are like, okay, this is the future. I can get rich here, right? So this is what you feel with this startup, right? And this is also what many investors felt by investing in the crypto space, both in crypto startups, as well as investing in crypto assets. So,
yeah. Yeah, no, definitely, that's a good point. Like, there's no way of knowing 100%, but from your experience as investors, how do you decide when something is a bubble? Like right now, the term AI bubble is in the air and in the media a lot. And some say we are definitely right now in an AI bubble. Some say we're
bubbles
not.
are important. I mean, we need bubbles. I mean, if we don't have bubbles, we don't attract people's attentions, people's money, talent. So bubbles are important.
There's a lot that has to do with the fear of being out of this bubble. So at the end, it's someone starts investing there, everyone's following. If it's someone that is kind of trendy, has a reputation for whatever it is, everyone starts investing. In our case, what I check, it's the application to the market. So validating if it makes sense. So this AI maybe has an impact, it solves a real need in the market, and someone is willing to pay for that. So that for me would be the check, not investing in any AI that appears in the market.
And I mean, since you're a very experienced investor, how do you how do you decide? Like, do you decide more gut feeling or draw from your experience from past industries and past hypes when it's time to jump on the train, as right now with AI? Because if a lot of people have this FOMO of, no, we definitely as investors should jump on this train and invest in as many AI startups as possible. And how do you approach it?
It's not really getting into the bubble or not. We follow that because, as I said, investing in pre-seed or early stage, we need someone to replace us in the startups once we want to divest, and most of the funds follow the same trends. So we want to make sure that we don't invest in something that no one wants to invest in the future, for sure. But then when we invest, the decision is taken with the person that is leading the company, and that has nothing to do on either it's a trend or not. It's part of really being subjective. You can accumulate knowledge on the way that people have behaved in the past in other portfolio companies, but at the end it's believing that that person has the energy, the passion, the vision, and that it's the right person to execute whatever the project is.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Jordi, how do you...
If you've been long enough in the game, and maybe I'm the oldest one in the panel, I know. So we've been going through this for the last 3 decades. 2000, dot-com boom, and you could go Web 2.0, social networks, crypto, AI, and in a couple of years or 3 years we'll have another one. So it is a matter of how we as both entrepreneurs or investors can adapt to getting the best and not the worst of these bubbles. Let me put an example. My previous startup was a failure because we were too early in the game. Part of it was that. No one wanted to invest in EdTech because there has not been a big exit in EdTech. A year later, I closed the company. COVID happened. And all of a sudden, all our kids study with a computer, with a device. And all of a sudden, all those funds that told me I will never invest in EdTech, they all have EdTech investments. So you have to deal with it. You have to deal with the hype. If the hype is, let's say, helping you, use it. But if it is not helping you, you need to find a way to survive.
So basically, timing is also a key factor, right? When you come up with a proposal, with a new idea, with a new concept, and whether a certain hype or bubble is already created at that time or not. How do you feel about this idea of when is the timing actually more important, Victoria? When do you think it's more important to look at who are the people behind it, and how sure you feel about them being able to execute on their promise, and how do you see the relationship between when to invest in something, when you feel there's a trend?
Well, timing, that's very difficult to predict, right? So some project startups come up, I don't know, at some point, and then it's too early, and then someone does exactly the same but a bit later, and then it's the right timing. So this is very difficult to predict. You need to take chances in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes investing, I mean, anyone can do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
As long as you have a bit of money. Well, even in crypto, you can invest 10 years, so you don't even much money for that. No, so I think it's more about, it's about, yeah, feeling, following your own gut feelings at the end of the day. So timing, nobody knows. But for example, I can talk a little bit now from the crypto perspective, digital asset perspective. So in Europe, just a few months back, the European Parliament voted in favor of a new law that's going to regulate the whole crypto space within the 27 member states in Europe. So this law is called Markets in Crypto Assets. So this is indeed helpful for many startups. Of course, if you look at the big exchanges, I don't know, Binance, they just went out there and they just said, okay, fuck it, we're just gonna evolve with the whole project with the exchange, and then I don't know, pay fines and pay for the license later on in life. This is also a strategy, but this is I think it's a bit tricky sometimes. So just as a little point here, regulation is also part of this timing. So for Europe and crypto, this is going to be very exciting, because within 12 months, we're going to have this new crypto regulation in Europe, which is going to do crypto business much easier. Well, and even like traditional players in the space, such as commercial banks and other players, can get into the space because there is like a proper regulation. So yeah, so timing is also a little bit sometimes dependent on regulation.
You made me think that since Jordi was speaking, now there's a lot of edtech funds. We are getting a bit away from the AI concept because none of us is a specialist in AI, but I'm guessing that in 2 years' time we'll see AI funds, someone investing in specialized.
Well, AI will directly invest your money. So you guys,
exactly.
you guys VC are going to lose your job.
On that.
So the same way my engineering team is no longer needed because AI is doing the work, bullshit, exactly. Then investors will not be needed because those algorithms will invest better than anyone else.
Sure.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, definitely. You touched a bit on the topic of regulations, and hand in hand is always the ethical question, right? The question around an ethical use and a moral use of new technologies. Whenever there's a new technology coming up, such as AI, there are also worries around, well, how can we make sure that this new technology is not being misused, how it's not getting into the wrong hands? For you as investors, do you think investors have a certain role in the contribution of an ethical use of new technologies, for example, such as AI or other new technologies? And if yes, how do you see this role? How do you see this responsibility of on the investor side?
So I assume it depends on your investment thesis, no? But this has happened since the beginning of our history. Dynamite was not invented to kill people or explosives. And like this, many other things. So depends in who you invest, how you invest, and what do you expect as a return. And also, as we were speaking, regulations. There's places with less regulation, so depending what you want to do, you will move to China, because there's no regulation and you will do with AI whatever you please. And that's why we had OpenAI CEO in Europe last week trying to push European mandates. Don't be so hard, because if not, there's things we will not be capable of doing. So it depends where you want to stand. And should there be some regulation and ethics behind everything? Most likely. How much? That's complicated.
Well, to be honest, I don't think, I don't look into anything related to ethics when I invest, to be honest. And probably if anyone does, it's very long down on the list. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you're thinking about, okay, do I trust this team, right? Do you think I can make money? Fantastic. Can I learn something on the journey? Fantastic. So ethics, yeah, I guess people are talking about it a lot, but I don't think many are taking investment decisions based on that. I'm definitely not. But definitely something I'm thinking of is more like diversity issues, which of course is also some of the questions with all these AI models, if they are repeating a lot of mistakes we did back in history. I don't know, in terms of, I don't know, remember a few years back, some AI models, I don't know if it was Facebook using it, like for some reason they were getting more male candidates up or whatever. So this is definitely, this is a problem, and I also see just when I'm investing that, well, in all these funds I ended up investing, I was investing in GPs or the founders of the fund, and they were all male, and I'm like, I mean, for me it's very important that, you know, a bigger portion of the money that's invested gets to female founders, because when we look into like the funding that goes to female founders, it's like, I don't know, is it 1% or it's like really not much, right? And that's a big issue, because there is a lot of money out there to be made with these, you know, with these female founders. So that's an issue. So is it ethics? Yeah, probably. But this is just a question I'm asking myself. But yeah, but I'm still not really doing much when it comes to investments. Yes, I did invest in a few female founders when it comes to startups. But yeah.
On our side, so VCs were regulated. It's stock exchange, the ones that we have to fulfill a lot of compliance, kind of in a pain of India's on our sector. But one of the things that the regulator imposes us is on matching the ESG issues, and we have to imply it. And it's not only that we are forced to do it, but before having all the legislation in place, we were already doing and conducting our due diligence. There's some issues that would probably be a stopper for investment, some of them, but like for instance, as you were saying, in terms of governance and having a diversity team, we cannot force to change co-founders if all of them are male. We suggest when they grow that they have a diversity in the team and they bring different type of talent into the company. That's what we can do, kind of recommend on future actions, but haven't seen any company that we have had a non-investment decision because of anything related on ethics.
Have you experienced any surprises in terms of, let's say, this example of where you see there's not enough diversity in a startup where you want to invest, you make a recommendation, how they should hire, what kind of direction they should develop in, and where you felt, and you had faith and you had trust in that feedback being taken on really positively, and you were optimistic about it, and then you were surprised about how the business, what direction it actually turned into, or vice versa, also surprises in the other direction.
In terms of diversity, we try to, so it's something that worries us on the due diligence. So while we're meeting the entrepreneur and the founding team, having similar profiles doesn't help. So having profiles that can be really opposite, it's really what we love to see in a company. But it's difficult that you have a direct action to that. So founders and founder teams have to come together, work and realign. And it's difficult that we recommend to change that. If we see that, then we don't invest. So at the end, it's a question of filling with a whole team and having the skills, or knowing that they don't have the skills and they have to acquire specific talent, but we don't kind of make such a huge, so strong recommendations in that sense.
Jordi, how do you feel about it?
So I have a mixed feeling, okay, because, and I have always had it from my professional point of view. Go to any engineering team and see how it's composed. It's 90% something males. I studied physics. There were no women studying physics with me. So, and I have a mother who is a pain in the ass. She's lovely, but she's been pushing for equality for long. But the problem is that I'm completely pro to that equality, but at the same time, forcing things many times do not work. So how you balance that influence And as an investor, you have very little influence. Once you've deployed your capital, goodbye. There's little you can do. You can suggest, but you have no authority. You have no operational on the business. So at the end, you can propose, and then founders, that's why you invest in them, they need to take their own decisions.
I'm leading in Spain Diversity VC because what I think that I can have an impact is changing my industry and making sure that I'm not alone there in a ball of mail. So trying to have kind of a mentor role with a new female. I talk about gender diversity, which is really something that we need in Spain, but I would go further to that and ask for diversity in any type. So having different profiles, people coming from different backgrounds, which is something that happens in other mature markets, but not in Spain. So I'm trying to work on that because I think that's where we can have an impact, making sure that at least investment decisions are not taken with a specific bias because of being in a males club. Because it's difficult to jump in, as Jordi was saying, to take a decision. I can take the decision not to invest in a company that is led by only male or only female, but can do any other thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's super interesting. So we're running out of time, but I love chatting with you because we touched on a lot of different topics, starting from AI over to ethics and diversity. And it was really interesting to see the perspective from you as investors and just how all the three of you have, if each one of you has their own personal approach to it and philosophy around it. So thank you so much again for being here and for sharing your time with us. Everybody, Mercè, Jordi, and Victoria. Thank you.
All right. Well, time for the second panel. We're going to be very quick. This one is going to be like 2 minutes long because there's the beer afterwards. I'm obviously very interested in the beer. Just kidding. Let's talk about AI because we all love AI, right? Everybody's into AI. Everybody's an expert on AI. If you have created Twitter threads on AI, maybe this is the wrong event for you, right? If you write LinkedIn posts on these are the top 10 Chrome add-ons that you have to use for AI, we're not going to be discussing that. Sorry about it. We're going to be discussing AI and life science from companies that have been doing this for more than 5 years. So they were early in the game, and this will be the main driver of the conversation because some started too early and they failed. Look at Jordi's company, right? Not to pick on you, of course, but he's a Real Madrid fan. That's why, but it's a great guy. Love you. So please, you know the rule. We're gonna have the music because we're gonna be welcoming these amazing people. Oh, I think there's another AC/DC song. It's getting interesting. All right, on the count of three, you know how this works. You did very well the first time. You're gonna do it even better right now. So the one of three, then on the three, give a rock for applause. 1, 2, 3, everybody. Come over.
Yeah, I think that, thank you, Alex. You have to read his blog. I just was looking at the blog you wrote, right?
I read it to prepare for this. I was like,
Yes.
what did she say in that event? So yeah.
So I think that I built 2 companies. One started in 2000 at the top of the Tibidabo mountain in the Observatory Fabra. So I joke with my American friends and I said, you start your companies in garage, we start in the Observatory Fabra, right? And at that time, we thought that space and neuro were 2 of the biggest challenges that humanity will face, right? Climate change and longevity, Alzheimer's, mental health. And I think we were so ahead, and still we are ahead. In fact, last year we closed our space business because I think the market is not ready to pay. Now maybe with, SpaceLink and Elon Musk and all these initiatives, it will start to privatize, but we couldn't endure it longer. I mean, we were putting money non-stop, but in neuro, there we nail it. So, that's a hard story for an entrepreneur. Sometimes you have to kill one of your babies because we love space and neuro equally, right? But we killed space because it wasn't viable business-like and focus on neuro and brain technology that was having an amazing traction.
And before going deep into what you do in every company, we're going to go into that a little bit later. How did you balance all of these years having two companies, avoiding investing too much in the one that was actually not thriving, and maybe abandoning the focus on the other one? How did you balance this as CEO?
Well, we had to let go. I mean, the moment I became CEO of Neuroelectrics, which was a new company we created, we put a manager in Starlab, and we tried to act as shareholders. I don't think you can lead two companies at the same time, especially when you have to really grow one company. It just takes your time, your soul, your energy. So, I think it's too hard to run two companies. I couldn't do it.
Look at Elon Musk, he's doing 4 or 5.
Well,
a little bit so-so, but
Well, he doesn't have a life.
Exactly.
I think I still have one, so I'm more European to that.
That's a very important topic, balance. And also, another thing you lot have in common, I like your companies because you believe in balance. One of the things we'll not be doing at Startup Grind, perhaps, or I think pretty securely, is like, there are too many companies that haven't treated people the right way during the pandemic in the last months, whatnot. I consider your businesses to be very healthy. Yours is entirely bootstrapped. Yours is quasi-bootstrapped. Yours also, like, very little investment, and you believe in balance. Like, we've had too many toxic companies with the work hard, Uber way of doing things, Elon Musk. I think they are not positive examples for most people. I mean, they can work for some people. That's a way. I don't want to give it that much voice about it. So, Mark, you're probably the person I came to know the latest to reach out to us because I run a podcast and you're like, oh, you wanted to meet more bootstrap companies. Your company is bootstrap. I don't know if you plan to change that. Tell us what you do at Happy Scribes to give the context at the audience. And why did you decide to bootstrap it?
Sure. So our company, we do automatic transcription and subtitles, audio to text, basically. And the reason why we bootstrapped is we started the company when we were in college. We're two students in Dublin, and with my co-founder, with Andre, we just had the skills to start. With the skills, and we were like super eager to learn. So I think the reason why we didn't get VC funding, it's probably because we were never bottlenecked by needing more cash to hire someone or something like this. We were pretty lucky because we got to profitability fairly early, and I think that's the reason why we're still bootstrapped.
Do you think that by bootstrapping, you could endure this time of like being too early in the market? Because we'll be talking about being too early in the market and how you extend the runway of the company, right? Being bootstrapped means that you make your own money, you're self-funded, and you're relying more on sales, perhaps, and not so much on dilutive investment. So, or do you think it has kept you back from actually growing faster? Because bootstrap companies are safer, but we're also slower, right? Sometimes we cannot invest that much in growth, hiring, because we don't have millions in venture capital.
I think perhaps it has made us a bit slower because you don't have so many resources to throw at a problem. You are playing the real game of you really have to solve something with a bit more constrained resources. And I guess maybe a bit slower, but I think for us, historically, the biggest problem has always been to just hire the right people. For us, it's extremely important to build a team where everyone is extremely talented and it's very full stack in what they do, and that's a big part of our philosophy of how we build a team. And I think that has been the bottleneck.
Awesome. Let's go to Angel. And I've known you for the longest. We used to work together at Deloitte, a tie and a suit, sweating in Barcelona in August, having that dress code. We're coding in Java, two nerds facing each other and like talking in like APIs and shit. And then he quit and he started a company the same year as I started mine. And we actually did like Alcoholics Anonymous, but Entrepreneurs Anonymous were like meeting to say like, oh, I have to review this contract. I don't know, like I need to print business cards. What's your provider? Things, shit like that, right? And we had a shoulder to cry on each other. It's really good to. And he was here in the first event, but he didn't wave his hand. But he was in the first event. You can assess it was a really shit event. But you were in the audience, and now you're speaking. How do you feel about it?
The first event.
Ooh, wow.
Sorry.
He's got a. potent
It
voice.
was not bad at all. It was good. I learned a lot of things on that event. So yeah, it was the first event, and now we are here. And long journey.
Let's talk about it because you're not bootstrap, you're quasi-bootstrap. Like you raise like some funds, public, private, not a lot. And I remember you did at least like 5 or 6 pivots in your first year, right? You started in the real estate market, parsing XML files, then trying to turn the market around. Then you eventually landed in machine learning image recognition. You work in image recognition for real estate realtors and big tenants. How did you find that specific niche? Because if I remember correctly, most of your clients are in the US. You're in Barcelona. How did you find this after so many pivots?
Yes, as Alex said, at the beginning we were working on other ideas. As he said, I was like super technical people and not business guy. So at the beginning I just wanted to code. And I created my applications that I thought that were very cool, but then I went to the market and the market said, this is really cool, but we have been doing this in a different way for a lot of years, so we are not going to change. And so at some point, I just realized that I needed to talk more with people and not with APIs. I'm still in this. I love that sentence. And then we started pivoting and talking more with people and talking more with our potential clients. And then we realized that we were able to solve a real pain point with our technical knowledge and then adapting this technical knowledge to a real problem in the market, to a real problem solution fit. From that point, we were developing our initial solutions, our initial services, and we finally started closing our real first contracts. And that was like, okay, this is something that they said to all technical entrepreneurs always, start with a presentation and talking with people before coding a single line of code. Don't code, don't start coding. But then at the initial years or months, I was just coding, and that's a terrible mistake. Don't do it.
Before we move on to Jorn, you got something funny here. Let me tell this story. So usually we get a lot of requests from entrepreneurs who need a technical co-founder. I need a CTO. I need developers. Raise your hands if you're looking for developers or CTO or only 2. Don't give me that bullshit. Like there's more. Yeah, technical co-founders. Usually it's like 10, 15, 20 people, right? Thank you. And so he's the other way around. He was like the technical guy writing code. Is like, I need a business person. So what would be your advice for people looking for technical co-founders? Where can you find them? When can they find people like you? And how to engage them with your project?
I think, obviously from my personal point of view, I think if you have the business problem solution fit or problem solution idea or a clear business goal, you have a lot of the initial cocktail that you need to be successful. You need to talk with these technical people and you need to explain what's your plan from a company point of view, what's your culture, what's your idea, and explain what are the technical needs. What do you need from a technical point of view? No, if I'm a technical guy, okay, you have a great idea, okay, let's talk, let's see what you need, let's see if I can solve that problem from a technical point of view, and what's the journey that we are going to have for this idea, for this project, or for this company. No? I think if you explain this really well and you have a clear idea of the culture that you want, because for technical people this is super important, you're going to find someone for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's move to Bjorn. For the full disclosure, happened to be an investor in his company. One of the things I liked about these companies, as I mentioned, they're maybe too early, right? But for me, this is the right timing. When you are some years before it's going to happen. Why? Because when I see pitch decks right now as an investor of companies being created right now, for me, they don't have 5 years of problem solving, 5 years of hiring people, encountering situations, maybe not. They fundraised before there was money for this market, right? So my question is going to be for all of you, but starting with you, Bjorn, that's like, Why did you start working in AI? You do sound generation 5 years ago or 7 years ago in starting the company?
Yeah, so we've been definitely too early for 4 years, and we've been going for 4.5 years now. So it really changed 6 months ago, thanks to ChatGPT, but also thanks to voices being ready. When we started in 2016, there was a big change in technology. So Google released something called WaveNet. So actually, text-to-speech voices, as you know it from the navigation system, from Siri, actually changed the technology. So it was not stitching together items, but actually a neural net approach. And that basically was the point of us saying like, okay, something will change. Might be 2 years, might be 3 years, and it's been almost 5 years now. But it was a very big bet then something will be ready now. And then I came here today. I was like, oh, we do text to audio, like the opposite of you. So we have text, and you get an audio ad or voiceover. And I think it was you said like, oh, like 11 Labs, right? And it was like, yes, exactly. And now everybody knows it. Everybody has heard about Spotify doing AI DJ. Everybody knows the good voices. And yeah, now it's getting there, but it has been really, really like a long way. So for 4 years, we've been knocking on doors and like, yeah, for sure, right? We've pivoted twice, and I think it's very hard to build a business, to bootstrap a business where the market is not ready. So I have built a marketing agency before, so we put private money in the beginning. Has been my cash cow to finance the business for very long. But if the market is not there, if customers don't know what they want, it's very hard. For the marketing agency, they call me, they want Google Ads, we give them Google Ads. We tell something and we can sell something before building it. In this company, I've built it with 2 developers. And the problem with developers is that they can actually get shit done. So actually, we developed very, very early on. So we developed actually way too early instead of selling it first. So now we have a product that is 5 years ahead, and we only started really like validating very, very late.
How did you manage the expectations with the early investors when you were probably saying like, look, this is going to happen next year or in 2 years, but they had to wait instead 4 years to see this happening? How did you manage the expectations there?
I mean, the first round is friends, families, and fools. So that's just basically people trusting you, want to give it a chance. Then we raised $1 million, which was quite significant for us. And it was one investor who actually sold his company to L'Oreal. He built a very, very big Becca Cosmetics. He built a very big cosmetic brand from South Africa just by using influencers. That was 10 years ago. So he was one of the first guys using influencers to sell cosmetics. And he was like, he believed that chatbots gonna change and communication in general will change from typing to talking, because we talk, we write, right? We need to learn to type. So he was really a visionary in thinking like what will happen in 5-10 years. And he put, I think 3 times 1 million in 3 different companies, knowing that most of them will fail. So we're the only ones that survived. And it's really like putting this bet on, as the investor said, on a trend that will grow. You don't know what's going to happen, but you need to know like what's going to happen in the future. What are the big changes, behavioral changes that happen? Okay, so you had this aha moment with this Google product. So before the chat, we were actually talking, and somebody here shared, I don't know if it was Jordi or Mercedes, they said something like, ChatGPT has actually helped the broader audience to understand what AI is, right? It was really hard to sell AI, but now thanks to ChatGPT, everybody knows what AI is, and all of the sudden we're selling AI, right? So for you, it was the advent of this Google product. Which one was for you? What did you see in the market? What product? What open source project?
At the beginning, we were like, we developed the first prototype of Raspberry, the AI at the end of 2015. I was working with image recognition before even deep learning, before neural nets, from 2010 with other methodologies in computer vision. When we were going to clients, late 2015, early 2016, the first thing that people were saying where we were selling our image recognition technology, saying, hey, we can identify the photos and explain what's inside in an automated way without humans. They were saying, okay, that's not possible, that's magic. And that's a big problem because you are so innovative at that point and you can think, oh, I'm super cool and super innovative. But if people doesn't understand you, it's a problem. For us, for example, Google Vision was the first service that helped us to expand the idea that image recognition was a reality. Google Vision, and then also ChatGPT is also helping us, because now people reads about AI, understands a bit more about AI, and understands the most important thing is that they understand that this is something that works and can solve problems. This is not something just, okay, it's something that can work or not, how is this going to work, this is magic, this is not possible. No, right now they know that this can solve problems, this is real, and this is something that can be integrated in their companies. So yeah, also ChatGPT helped us a lot.
Anna, what was the aha moment for you? What did you see in science or technology that was like, okay, I got to use this technology? Because you started reading the signals in the brain, right? Now you're writing them. You're stimulating the brain to treat some I don't know what the right word for that is. That some conditions, right? And even to perceive or detect emotions using AI, right? So what invention triggered that idea of a business for you back then?
I think that when we were trying to crack the brain, which is yet the most difficult part of our body, we don't yet understand how the brain works, but when we were mapping the brain electrically as an electrical system, we thought, I mean, the aha moment was like, we've been reading brains for all these years, what about if we can write on the brain? What about if we can stimulate brains? And that's when we developed in our famous cap with electrodes, the capacity to inject currents into the brain. That was transformational for the company because instead of monitoring patients, now we could stimulate brains and eventually, as we are doing now, reduce seizures if you suffer from epilepsy or, for example, improve your depression. So we are doing 2 FDA trials to try to demonstrate that this technology made in Barcelona can become a new therapy for patients with epilepsy, depression, and hopefully one day Alzheimer's. So it's a game changer. And yesterday or 2 days ago in Sonar, it was so funny because we had an installation at Sonar where people were putting our cap, and then we were transforming your brain signals into emotions and music and images, and people were crying. I was so blown away because we are a medical company, but artists, they reach out to us all the time. And we love, it's our fun project, right? But people were crying to see how their brain was showing their emotions. And I think that Elon Musk is now involved in neurotech, but I think that is a whole world into the future of how we are going to interact with the brain in ways that, you know, we cannot even think about them. And there are a lot of ethical issues, right? Because if you guys complain about social media, now imagine there is a chip in your brain. That's like the ultimate dimension, right? Who is going to have access to your brain? How are they going to manipulate? You're much younger than me, but, you know, how are they going to manipulate your brain? So there is, you know, in future technologies, there is always the good and the bad, right? And I was 2 weeks ago in San Francisco, and next to me in a dinner was sitting Tristan Harris, who was the guy featuring the social dilemma that went out of Google. Mm-hmm. And he was very concerned about AI. He says, we didn't control how social media was going to be deployed in the world, and we made huge mistakes. Is it going to happen the same with AI? In my field, in neurotech, I'm super happy because the brain is so difficult that if we don't have artificial intelligence to help us, we'll never crack it. So, you know, I welcome AI, and we've been using machine learning and deep neural networks for ages. But the more sophisticated the algorithms become, the faster we'll learn how your brain works.
It's funny because you were talking about, like, we were at Sonar and people were talking about, like, their emotions, the music, reading the brain. I was like, that sounds like MDMA to me. But I don't know if you're able to see funny things. Like, probably this is something that you will be able to detect, right? Of course, it's a joke, but there are so many of these considered drugs, like the mushrooms and whatnot, or LSD, microdosing, that are now being used to treat some conditions. So maybe this is also an interesting a converging place for 2 technologies or 2 worlds that when they converge, they create a breakthrough moment, right? We discussed this with Vicente Martí. If you're interested in this topic, read his tweets and watch his interviews because it's very, very interesting. What was the breakthrough moment for you, Mark? What did you get inspired on? I think it was an open source algorithm, right? Or what technology inspired you to create HappyScribe?
So when we started looking at the problem, basically what happened is that I was doing research on AI, like on deep neural networks and these things in college. And then my co-founder, he felt the problem. Like he had to transcribe a bunch of things and realized that he would spend like 2 weeks not sleeping, having to do all this work. And at that time, this technology, we had seen the blog post from Google, like the WaveNet, actually the same one, which it was text-to-speech, but we figured out that there should be some technology that we're at the point where this technology started to be useful. And basically, with research, we found that there was no product at the time, and then it's when we like joined one and one together, and we built something that with like an off-the-shelf model at the beginning, and built a product on it. And perhaps what's interesting about HappyScribe is that we started by building the product, and then when we started having many users using it and doing corrections of the transcription, and after a bit of time, we developed a huge data set about speech-to-text. And then it's when we started training our own models and then having real breakthroughs in accuracy. And I think like this is a bit how it went.
Circling back to enduring this process of being too early in the market, here's a question I like to ask everybody because I'm getting the best answers all the time. It's like, how many times were you close to shutting down the company?
I think we've been 0 times.
Well, because you're bootstrapped. Okay, next. See, there are pros of bootstrapping a company. Like, you have money.
Perhaps like on...
Yeah?
No, I don't think we've been close
Not
to shutting
really.
up the company.
Okay,
No.
that's good. Anna, how about you?
I think it's, I mean, at the beginning, I still remember when we were renting projectors per the hour, which was so funny because we didn't have the money to buy a projector. So I remember coming down to Plaza Catalunya and they will rent you a projector for the hour. I think it's really good to have little money when you're an entrepreneur because we raised a Series A of 20 million, which is big money, right? But the fact that we were with so little money and we bootstrap gives you the discipline not to throw any money. I think starting a company with a big amount of money, it's a mistake because getting money is difficult and you have to spend it wisely. So for me, I think it was a great experience, but I think bootstrapping is also very hard. I mean, raising such a big amount of money allow us to employ people I couldn't have paid otherwise, to do things I couldn't imagine. So I think that bootstrapping is great to a certain extent, but I believe in the power of all the people in the room to scale up companies. We scale up to Boston, the most competitive place on earth. We super succeed in the US, but it takes guts, ambition, and talent to scale up. So don't think small. If your idea is great, it's great for Europe, for the US, and for Asia. And I think we Europeans should be ambitious to conquer the world as the Americans. And I think that's something that I'm totally missing in our ecosystem.
Awesome, but you didn't answer. How many times were you close to shutting down the
Well,
company?
many times. We didn't meet the payroll for 3 months. We have to talk to all the employees, telling them we wouldn't meet the payroll. I mean, we've been in the verge of bankruptcy at least a couple of times.
Wow.
And suffering. So I still remember this saying cash flow is more important than your mother, right? So every time I talk to my CFO, it's like, I don't give a shit about P&L. Show me the cash flow. That's the only thing I care about.
I remember one of the sentences I always remember when I interviewed you from 2015. You said something like, a company without sales is like riding a stationary bicycle. You get really tired, but you end up going nowhere. Like you are in the same place, right? It was really good, and I always remember this, and I tell all my portfolio companies, I was like, that's good, but when will you start selling? Because you will get tired, and you will not move forward. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Angel, how about you? How many times?
I think a couple of times or 3 times, probably. At the beginning, everything is really hard for an entrepreneur. We were bootstrapping for more than probably 3 years. We changed our products, our problem solution fit at the beginning, our proposal to clients. And then when we started officially with Raspberry late 2015, I remember that we raised an ENISA from the government that allowed us to survive more months. We were 2 people, like 2 entrepreneurs, pretty technical, both, so it was difficult. And then with that, we developed the technology to a point that we were presenting in California late 2016. And then we raised a lot of interest from VCs. We were running out of money at the end of the year, and then we raised a bridge loan from an American VC without meeting him in person, just with a Zoom call.
Wow.
And he said, hey, I'm from Texas, and here in Texas we do things like this. Bam, bam, bam. You will get the money that you need.
You got the money?
Yeah. We were at that point 3 people, and he sent the money to 3 guys in Spain, a bridge loan, and with that money we were able to raise our round in mid-May, and then we started burning a lot of money after that round. We grow so fast, too fast. And then we raised an Horizon 2020 from Europe, that was this public funding, a grant, and with that we were able to establish the business, start growing, put the correct amount of people in the team, control our burn rate, have a healthy runway for a lot of time, and now we are one of the startups that probably is more efficient in the portfolio of our VCs, and that was a great lesson. I mean, money is difficult to get, and you need to be very smart how you spend it. It was the hard way to learn it. But we are here, and it has been a great journey from that point. And in the last 5 years, we have not raised any more money. So it was, at the end of the journey, it was great.
Inspirational, like, I always say, like, it's good if you don't have to raise any money, but thank you for not inviting me to invest in your company. You're such a great friend. Also, let's move. Jorn, how about you? How many times have you been close to shutting down the company?
It's like a birthday. It's coming every year.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we like to, I think as a founder, you need to kind of like surf. We're surfing it always very, very tight. The reason for that is it's like, as founders, you want to build, you want to push. So you don't want to have money laying around for years. So it's a fine line between like kind of like how much runway you want to have and how much you really want to use it. Last year we've been actually double, so it's been 40 people last May. It was very easy to get money in the last couple of years after COVID, so it was money was never the issue. And then I think in May last year, I think the SoftBank thing happened. I think WeWork kind of like went down, and then suddenly nobody wanted to give any money for like 4 months.
Yep.
So we got the term sheet taken away. We got like from the UK government like 400K, they got delayed. So basically we're outstanding like almost like $1 million. There was a lot of money. So all our parachutes were falling off, and we needed to reduce, unfortunately, the people like from 40 to 20. So that was super hard, of course, like because everybody we had a fantastic culture, and then suddenly from one day to the other you have like 50% of your friends gone. So that was very hard. But yeah, I mean, and I think times have changed. I think now everybody's looking for profitable businesses. It's not, luckily, I think we need to build businesses that make money instead of just taking money. So I think that's a good trend. That's a good trend, but it definitely changed. So now everybody's optimizing instead of like pushing, taking over the world, actually to build a profitable business, which is a good trend.
Okay, on that line, we got time to really quick 2 questions, right? The first one, which one has been your most expensive fuck up? Can you quantify it? How much money have you lost in a single experiment?
I think the most expensive fuck up is to build a fantastic product that nobody needs. So the biggest.
How much? Okay.
I mean, we spent the first 2 years building something with 20 people that had got no traction. So that's very expensive. I think that's why I'm a big fan of lean startup, selling something and then building it. But building something nobody wants is always the biggest fuck up, I think, because you're wasting everybody's time and money.
Okay.
So,
how are you, Angel? Any expensive fuck up that you can share? And if you can quantify it, all the better.
It's difficult to quantify, but I think I already answered this question. But the worst thing is to start developing something that then nobody needs. It's similar.
Yeah.
It's really similar. At the beginning, my advice would be, if you think that this is you are building something that is really useful, please do a PowerPoint in one day, one day, and present to the clients. Talk with people. Don't code. Don't spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources in something that you are not sure about the problem-solution fit or the product-market fit.
Awesome. Anna?
Yeah, for me, we opened a company in the Netherlands years ago in the space sector, and I think we spent at least $200,000. And
Wow.
at that time, I thought that you could go to an external country, right, open a company and explore the market. I think that's is one of the biggest mistakes that nobody should do. I mean, when I went to the US, that experience helped me a lot because, first, I should have read history. Dutch people don't buy anything. So that was another mistake. Trying to sell something to the Dutch was like, are you
Dutch people there?
Yeah.
Don't get offended.
So that was terrible. And second, when I went to the US, before we opened our office in Boston, I made sure we had at least, at that time, $300,000 of revenues to justify. So we were selling from Barcelona, taking a lot of flights, making a good base of customers, and then when we had at least $300,000, we opened the office.
Okay, that's good. You shared a fuck up on how to solve it. That's really good. Thank you for opening up so much. Like, I like the reason I asked this question is because you opened up so much in the previous one that I'm getting into the vibe of like showing how hard entrepreneurship is, right? It's very easy to say like, yeah, raise funds and like fail fast, fail often, and all that bullshit that Facebook says, right? But the reality, you are the companies that are the reality, right? So what's your example? What's your most expensive fuck up?
So some examples come to mind. Once we put an intern in charge of the budget of Google Ads.
Okay, I was expecting some Google Ads at some point. Google Ads is always the most expensive one.
It was pretty much taking, I think it was like 30K or so that went out of the window like this in a matter of weeks. Yeah, I think probably this was one of it.
I had a recent one on Google Ads actually. Like I had a campaign last year. I didn't stop it, and I didn't know it kept running until yesterday. So 6 months of campaign that just was going and going and going. That supposedly I had stopped, but didn't go through.
Another thing that was pretty expensive. Once we did a whole website redesign, and we didn't test it thoroughly. So we had like a bit of decrease in the conversion rate from users that arrive on the website to signing up and to converting, and that small decrease in conversion rate was huge in terms of cash.
Okay. Now in 30 seconds, what can we expect from your company in the next years? And one piece of advice for people here, like, wow, it's going to be fucking rough out there in the next month. So what's your advice for business owners?
In what sense?
In what sense? Maybe in just like fundraising or like how to keep your startup alive.
I think that normally it's not realized. It's how much you can do with what you have, and if you just like try to be a bit clever about things. I think normally people by just learning they can do much more than they normally think.
And what can we expect from your company in the next years?
So,
or you don't want to disclose?
So what we're trying to do is make the audio and video much more accessible on the web, and hopefully in a bit of time you'll be able to go online and find every piece of audio or video that you will be watching subtitled in any language, and probably you will be able to listen it in any language as well.
Awesome. Anna, what can we expect from your company and some piece of advice?
I hope I can help your loved ones that are suffering from at least epilepsy and depression, and hopefully Alzheimer's, to get better in the next 5 to 10 years, and in the journey learn more about how the brain works. And I think that a piece of advice is just, especially for diversity and women CEOs out there, I just don't take no as an answer. I got a lot of shit when I went into Boston. I went to the public university, UB in Barcelona. I didn't go to MIT or Harvard, right? And when I got there, people told me, Anna, you'll never make it in this ecosystem. You'll never raise money. You're a woman from Barcelona with an accent. You don't belong here. it was hard. I mean, they were telling this to your face, right? But I persevered, I fought, I worked the extra mile. And as an example, last year I was Goldman Sachs Entrepreneur of the Year, coming from the Public University of Barcelona. So it's just a sign that don't take bullshit from people. So just, especially for diversity, I think for women, people of color, I think talent doesn't have gender or geography. You just have to make your way through and help others that are coming from the back.
100% subscribe. Angel.
I would like to double down in something really interesting that you also said before about how difficult it is for a Spanish company or a Barcelona company to sell in the US. At the beginning, we were selling here in Spain with 2 first contracts, and then in a natural way, I don't know why, but probably I know, because of some reasons we were in a natural way selling more in the US. Now we are growing a lot more in the US, probably in the next years we are focusing 100% in the US market, and it has been really difficult for us to do this. It takes a lot of resources from us. We were at the beginning just going a lot of times to events there from here without anyone there. Now we are growing our team in the US, opening an office, opening a team from a business side, maintaining the technology here. And I think my advice for anyone that is starting a company and thinking about if you can sell in the US and you can grow in the US, I would say that at least for us, in a natural way, we were a lot more, our traction was a lot higher in the US. We hired people that was talking the same language, not in the terms of accent, but in the terms of understanding how they think in some ways, from a business point of view. Hiring people from Atlanta, but here in Barcelona, that was living here, but then was traveling there. It was so difficult at the beginning, and we spent also a lot of money doing that, a lot of money. And then years later, it paid off and we started growing later. So don't be scared about the US market. If you are a Spanish company, I think here we have great technology, a great talent. We were talking before about the technology, the technical talent here in Barcelona. It's crazy. I mean, these universities are so good. UPC, which is also a public university, has extremely good talent from a technical point of view. So the US developers are not better than our developers. Here there is incredibly good talent. Don't be scared. Go there and sell to that companies because it's possible. It's possible.
Awesome. Thank you. Bjorn, no pressure. Like, you're separating us from the beers, so take your time.
So nobody likes ads, but everybody likes stories. And I hope we can be part of turning ads to stories that are actually more personal and enjoyable. So if each of us open a Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, each of our feeds will look completely different. If we open a podcast, we still listen to the same stuff. So I think audio will be as personalized as our Facebook feeds already are, which means in the future somebody with depression can listen to a podcast that helps them get over depression. If somebody likes in football, they can listen to stuff that's hyper-personalized to them. So I think that's where the future is, and yeah, I hope we can make that more enjoyable. And then the 2 advices, one for sure, validate and sell before you build. I think it's good to validate before you build because that's the biggest waste. And then the second thing is like I encourage everyone to replace Google with ChatGPT. And just see ChatGPT as the person you would like to hire but could never afford. So whatever you do, just give it a chance. It can literally do everything, and it really helps you to gain momentum. So
Awesome. Thank you very much. Big applause, ladies and gentlemen. Awesome.